like in terms of health-related dietetics, or you're just really looking for?
Testing 1, 2. How is this? There we go. Is this moving?
Yeah, I'm glad I was able to make you cry, Alice. That means that's a good story for the book.
You just learn it.
It's 11:30. Will you be good for lunch in an hour?
Yeah.
Okay. Ross asked if you want him to come.
Maybe for lunch?
You want him to?
Sure.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
You ate for breakfast, so you're not doing Lent Fridays.
I forgot all about that.
I'm just gonna make sure that.
We'll ask Alice if he's doing that.
I don't want to be offended if they serve meat.
Yeah, that's a good point. I actually never even thought about that.
Yeah.
That's, I guess I am not being a good Catholic. Right?
Yeah.
It was pretty fun last night, right? That's good. Well, we were only, we hung around for extra 5 or 10 minutes, so he wasn't that late. She said, Russ called and said maybe you might join us for lunch.
That'd be great.
Ideas and, let me walk you through here real quick. Show you something fun. Here, some of our cooler, moments. This is like the big upset with us beating Brown, and the first inaugural, and Maryland of the Year, Baltimore Sun, who hates me, but they reluctantly did, and then winning the first race and all that. So this, and then this is the infamous purple surfboard.
Oh,
So they hung it on the wall so you wouldn't hit your head up there. But I said on election night, it was a deep blue spade and the blue year with the huge blue wave. It turns out I can surf, and I had a purple surfboard. So my executive protection detail actually for Christmas gave me this custom surfboard because one of their buddies owned a surfboard shop with the Maryland flag with the purple, and I carried it out onto the stage with the thousands of people at the MGM with the Surfing USA playing, and the place went wild. And so this is like, all this is just our inner office, and we have senior staff meetings. This is Kara Bowman. I don't know if you met Kara last night, but she's
Hello.
She's hides back in here.
Good to see you.
How you doing?
Morning.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Yeah, that's Matt.
Doing the tour?
Some of my more 62 ones that didn't fit in the man cave over here.
Okay.
Else in the perps.
Yeah, you can only fit so many in the man.
This is where all the magic happens back here.
Yeah,
see,
sure.
So see, here's where I used to have hair, and I was a little thinner. This is the first election night when we put up this amazing thing with the people just going crazy. So little memories.
Oh, we got some fun stuff.
This is where we called in the security team when the riots were going on, and then we rolled off to our Maryland emergency management agency. We got Maryland on the phone. That's a whole nother.
Man.
We
Well, that's
the
that's.
riots are unbelievable.
Uh-huh.
It's just you could write a book about that week. It's yeah, I'm trying to be very bipartisan. Most of our legislators are Democrats, so I got equal numbers of Obama, and I had to throw my obligatory Trump in there since even though
He is
not
the
a
president.
He is the president. Yeah. Here, let me explain it to you, Mike. Yeah. So we get the George. We switch gears from it. So this is a Naval Academy chapel right out the window here, where John McCain's funeral was. War hero. So the downtown altitude, Chesapeake Bay is out the window. The Naval Academy is right there, a couple blocks away. The inaugural was out here on the ground. But George Washington is not probably book material, but just for this is the oldest continually operated state house in America. It was the first capital of the United States after the Revolutionary War. And this is downstairs, which maybe we'll walk past on the way to the house for lunch, is where George Washington resigned his commission as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Forces, and his original resignation speech is downstairs. And the Revolutionary War officially ended here with the ratification of the Treaty of Paris, which this is a copy of right here. But so it's kind of a lot of history right here. People know, like, why is George Washington? Isn't he from Virginia? But this was the spot, and people don't know that. So our state house has been around for a long time, and that's why I say 243 years, a long time to be the second Republican to be.
Let me just finish a couple things on the cancer stuff before we
Then we break.
When someone has had a life-threatening disease like that, you're never fully past it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's got to be. How do you relate to that in your head?
Yeah.
Here we are. How many years? 4 years.
3 years. So. Well, yeah, it's 3.5 years since I was cancer-free. 4 years since it started. Well, yeah, it was not even. Yeah, it's 2.5 since I ended the 18 months of chemo. So. Look, it had an impact on me that's not ever going to go away, but not in a bad way. I think in a good way. There's no question it changed my life, and it changed the way maybe I look at things. I think for me, it made me appreciate that, life is short and you never know how much time you have. And, I was always kind of an impatient, get things done, make the most out of life kind of guy. But now I literally treasure every single day, and I try to make the most out of every day. I'm like, hey, you don't know how many you have left, So I'm more driven than I was before. But I don't focus on the negative aspect of it at all. I think of it as every day's a blessing. And I'm happy to be here. And I got to get things done. You can all end tomorrow. I'm going to make the most of today.
Yeah. There's a line I heard from Keith Richards, the Rolling Stone, the self-abusing Rolling Stones guitarist, who said, "I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be anywhere."
Well, it's true. I mean, when you get up and you give a speech somewhere, and it's like, I'm happy to be here with you. I'm like, no, I'm really happy to be here. I'm happy to be here anywhere.
Now, is there a moment at which the doctors deliver the news to you that this treatment has worked?
Yeah.
How do you learn that? How do you discover that?
So, Dr. Rappaport, who's the top guy, and he's a world-renowned, doctor, cancer doctor at the University of Maryland Medical Center. Speaks around the world on this thing, and you do these things called PET scans.
Right. Which is like a CAT scan.
It's like a CAT scan, but they give you some kind of I don't know what to call the stuff, but they fill you full of I know when you go in there to do it, it has a thing that looks like a nuclear warning signal.
Is it a contrast agent?
It's a contrast agent, but it's a nuclear kind of thing. It has a warning thing, and it comes in this thing that looks like plutonium.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big metal frozen thing that they twist off, and it's like, I don't know what the heck it is, but it's apparently not good for you. So, and you can only do it like every 90 days. But you drink this stuff, then they inject some stuff, and then they put you in a CAT scan thing. For a long time, actually. You're laying there and you have to be perfectly still, head to toe, while the thing, it takes forever. You can't hardly breathe, and you can't move anything. It's like pretending like you're dead there, and it takes up and back and back and back, stops, and don't breathe, and hold your breath. And then they look at this stuff, and it lights up wherever the cancers are. So originally, I was lit up like a Christmas tree. Everywhere. You know, I think 40-something tumors from my neck to my groin, and big ones. And there was like, you know, the thing would be like red.
Right.
And then it would be.
So this was they did this early in the.
Well, they did them throughout the process.
Right. So they do them every 90
And they were
days.
like, it's looking better.
Right.
It's looking.
But
better.
initially, you know that it was like the Christmas tree.
Yeah. Initially, they're like. That's when they said. Well, they first did the CAT scan, and they see these big tumors, and they do a PET scan, and they find much smaller ones, and it's like
and they show
anywhere where the cells are. It has something to do with sugars. It's where I don't know the details of the medical, but it identifies where these cells are multiplying somehow.
And they show you this stuff.
Yeah, they show it to you, and they kind of try to explain it to you. But he has a good way of translating the technical medical jargon into realities, and so the final one comes in, and I had to do these, by the way, every 90 days for 2 years.
That's nerve-wracking right there, isn't it?
It really was. So now I'm down to 6 months. I still do them because they don't consider you cured for 7 years.
Yeah, no, you want to know.
But so every 6 months you go check, and then I think eventually they drop it to every year. But it is a little bit. I don't think about it at all until I'm in the car on the way. I guess it's on the calendar. I'm like, I got to go get this thing, and then you're like, I hope it's good.
Right.
I don't like dread. Oh my gosh, I got. But then I was like, I got a test coming up today.
Right.
But he's like, we're hoping this next one. We have 90 days. We're going to shoot you full of this stuff. We're hopeful that this next one's going to. But we don't know. So but he comes into the room in the hospital, and he just said, Governor, our prayers have been answered. You're cancer-free and in complete remission. Just like that. And that was, pretty incredible feeling.
Wow.
And he said, now, we have to maintain, that's what we had already decided on the aggressive. He said, we're still going to do chemo for a year. We still have to check every 90 days. We're still going to, you're not, we're not through it.
Not done here.
But this is wonderful news and the best possible outcome we could have hoped for.
And you're there by yourself? Does Yumi come to these
Yumi
things?
was there.
She came.
And, I hugged him and, thanked him for saving my life.
Wow.
And, it's incredible.
Yumi said, I told you so?
yeah, pretty much. See? God has a plan. Yeah. But he's a very religious, devout Jew, and he every time I would say something, he would say, "From your lips to God's ears." Every time he would say it every time I was in the hospital, and he would give me, he would also tell me like he would say some really wise Jewish scripture stuff, or he would have some really neat kind of stories he would tell, and he was very uplifting. He was kind of a spiritual guy and a very positive and brilliant guy, on top of being, the best bedside manner ever and a brilliant doctor. So he's just a great guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Made me feel better throughout the process. He's like it wasn't just you could be a great technical
of course,
guy, but this is a
human.
Yeah.
Had a human touch.
right.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, both doctors. I couldn't ask for a better guy.
Yeah. It sounds like you were beautifully served and all that.
And just, I mean, I put down, as we were talking about potential stories, I said, heroes and angels, because I met I could tell stories about all these nurses and doctors and some of these kids. There's another kid I want to tell a little story about, then we'll walk over and study. Jimmy was the Down syndrome guy who died of leukemia, but there's this young guy, Andrew, he started out, he was 5 years old, and I took some kids, it was a thing called Cool Kids Cancer Campaign, and we took a bunch of them to the Redskins game. We have a box at the Redskins Stadium and the Ravens Stadium and the Orioles Stadium, and we did cancer benefit things at all of them. But we did this thing at the Redskin game, we took the kids down the field, and this little kid was really cute, and we took him up to the box and his mom with him, and he was the youngest one, I think, but there was a bunch of kids and their parents, and we were getting hot dogs and meeting cheerleaders and players, and we were having a blast. And the kid comes up to me and he says, "Governor," he said, "I heard you're going through chemo." I was just starting. He goes, "I heard you're going to get chemo." He goes, "My mommy helped me make a list for you." And I was like, "My mommy helped me write a list for you." I had some advice. He's 5 years old. So I have the list. It's in. You actually have a video. Russ did a 10-minute or 12-minute video we did at a gala that had everyone crying, that had all these stories, and one of them was this kid telling stories. It's beautiful. That was one of the most incredible things. I mean, I had people crying, 1,000 people crying at this thing. But Andrew says, I can't remember all of them, but Andrew says, at first you're not going to like the doctors, but they're really there to help you. He said, make sure you have a hugging person. Mine is my mommy. He has like 10 things. He said, make sure they give you the num-num cream before they give you the pokey. So I go to, there's a whole bunch of all these other things.
It's like a kid's
thing about here's what, before you start going in the hospital, he was like trying to help me.
Right.
So I go to so he and I became pen pals, or we got these things at the press conference when I become cured. I'm hugging him in the video and pictures, and I go ring the bell with him when he gets cured 2 years later, and we're like we're still buddies. Yeah. Andrew Oberle is his name. He's now like 7, almost 8. So I go to the hospital. And I'm like, "Hey, Doc, how come I don't get the num-num cream before you give me the pokey?" Andrew says, "I'm supposed to get num-num cream. You guys just keep sticking me." He's like, "Oh, we only do that for the kids." Like they gave him some things so the needles wouldn't hurt so much. But he was a cute little kid. But I met multiple people. Now, so I walked the halls, and there's all these little stories. But I met these people. I would do laps with them. I meet their families, and a bunch of them died. I mean, it's a terrible disease. So, and then I would go to funerals, or we'd be, it was just. We had great heartwarming stories of people being cured, and we have terrible stories. And I thought about these nurses and doctors that they develop real relationships over a long period of time, and then they lose all these people. How difficult that is. Well, one young man. I remember I was walking by and they told me I couldn't shake hands or anything. And I walked by this guy, he was probably 20 years old, and he was in there with his mom. And I walked by and he yelled out to me, and I stopped, and the guy said, he started talking. He said, "Governor, I really admire you, and I've been following you, and this is my mom." I talked to Mom. And the kid said,